Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to this edition of the Tuesday telecast. What is happiness? Seems like a simple question, and we are going to address it. And it may not be so simple as we think, or maybe it is. Let's find out. Let's see. Looks like I have Jamie and Joy and Allison and Violet. So here we go. Let's bring them into the house. See you in there. Hello, and welcome to the Joyful Path and the Tuesday telecast. So here we are. We're going to figure out a fundamental question. What is happiness? So that's something that I think that more people, more and more right now, are trying to figure out because they've got something missing and they're saying, okay, do I really need this happiness? Do I need to just pay the bills? So we're going to look at what happiness is. And to start, I want to get our people around the table to just say who they are and why they're here. So let's start with Joy.
Me?
You.
Hey. So, we're talking about happiness, so joy would be first, right? Um, I used to have a good friend named Mary. There you go. Um, I'm Joy. I am a podcaster and facilitator and also email marketer. That's who I be.
All right. And Violet.
I'm Violet Ramirez Detre, but I just go by Detre. And I'm a speaker, two-time best-selling author. I'm also a coach and a happiness advocate.
Woohoo. All right. And Jamie, let's hear from you.
Sure. Hey, everybody. I'm Jamie Edwards. I am a career coach. I have my own company called Jam Sessions with Jamie, and I help people every day with resume building, interview practice, and LinkedIn profile optimization to help people gain traction on their job search.
And one little thing about you that people may not know is that you also are a co-host in the positivity room on LinkedIn, which may very well have a little bit to do with your happiness anyway.
I agree. Thank you for bringing that up. Yes, we'll talk about that, and you get to be a part of it every week too. Talk more about that later.
Absolutely. And Allison.
I'm Allison Jeffereys. I'm a life and relationship coach for women, and this topic is very near and dear to my heart because what I do is help women remember who they were born to be and learn to live life as themselves, the way that was intended. And happiness is 90% of that.
All right. Yeah. So happiness is something that we were born, and it wasn't like the first thing we did was to be happy, right? We were born and we wanted to get love and we wanted to get shelter. And if we didn't, though, boy, were we unhappy. So what is this? What is this happiness thing anyway? And what does it mean? What does it mean to you to have happiness? Anyone, hop right in.
Sure, I can start. So, for me with happiness, I used to think happiness was all about the things I have and the things that I'm proud of and just looking around me and the stuff I own and things like that. And I realized that things have shifted so much into like where I feel like my happiness goes. Now that I've been doing career coaching and our positivity call, like I've been honestly most happy when I see people around me succeeding. I think that's so important. Like, the amount of people that I'm helping every day, I feel like when it comes to getting their next job, getting back on their feet, people who've been struggling for a while now, because this year has brought so many so much craziness when it comes to this job market. It's exciting to me and brings a smile to my face when I see people make announcements on LinkedIn that they just found their next job, or they just even got an interview or whatnot. Like when people, and I see people around me succeeding and celebrating that success, that makes me happy. This time of year also makes me happy too. It's just the holidays right now. I feel like just even driving around and seeing the holiday decorations, and my daughter Olivia, for those who don't know, they always see me singing with her in the car and stuff like that. Like just seeing her smile and point out the decorations when we're driving, and the smile when she sees Santa Claus, and just the happiness that comes over her to just see all these things and experience them for like the first time at her age at 3 years old. She's now kind of understanding things. That kind of stuff brings happiness to me as well. And just seeing the warmth that everyone gets this time of year brings happiness to me as well.
That's incredibly joyful. Yeah. Who else?
When I saw the title of this, only two words popped into my head. Happiness is a choice. I spent the first 45 years of my life wanting to be happy, trying everything I could think of, getting all the things, having all the stuff, working my ass off, working my rear off just to buy and do and collect. Okay. And none of it brought me joy. None of it brought me happiness. And I was 45 years old. And I remember one day just waking up going, well, this is kind of crazy. Why don't I just be happy? And so I started looking for one good thing a day, just one. And at the end of the day, I would think about it. And before I knew it, I would start through the day making lists and lists and lists of things. And I realized there was happiness all around me. And it was my choice to let go of the drama and the trauma and the shame that we've lived with and had layered on us by everyone else, and start just living from the inside out, being happy. And it sounds too terribly simple, and it really is that simple. It's just uncovering the layers of stuff to get to that level. And when we do, happiness is ours to choose anytime we want it.
Layers of stuff is very much a boom moment. Yeah, we're sort of kept from seeing it sometimes by ourselves, and yeah, we got to remove that layer. What else?
It's a state of being, so we literally can bring it on. It's an odd thing. It's about perception to some extent. When you realize that a table is not good or bad, it just is. And you can look at a table and you could remember a happy dinner with friends and family, or you can remember the time that you had that argument, It's what you want to do. And once you realize, just like Allison said, it's your choice. Once you realize I can be happy, or I can be mad or sad or whatever the other emotion is that you want to be. Once you realize that you can do those things, that you can really do those things, you take control and you say, okay, something bad has just happened. And what am I going to do with that? How am I going to manage that? You could still be dealing with sadness and literally be I'm not saying over the top happy. We're not talking about somebody, dancing through the house and throwing flowers and laughing hysterically. We're basically talking about a feeling whereby you are at peace. It's it's really that simple. But it is a little amount of work.
All right.
Yeah, and what I was thinking about is that happiness is kind of like a muscle. For me, it was a very important time in my life when I was 9 years old and I accepted Jesus Christ into my life. and I was involved in all the church things and everything, but I had multiple suicide attempts. And it wasn't until 10 years ago that I started on this journey of God showing me different things, that joy is already in us. And as a matter of fact, we have 6 happy hormones. I used to think there were only 4. So the 4 of them are dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. And there's 2 other ones that I just found out about, norepinephrine and GABA. So we're born with these things already embedded in our DNA. And like Allison and Joy were saying, we can access them, and we can choose to access those things if we shed all the other things that are bogging us down.
Beautiful. Yeah, there are no mistakes when we look at it in this way. There's no, the bad and the good go away because we realize that, oh, I'm reacting to that thing, but I'm reacting to it for a reason so that I can learn. This is a lesson. This is a way for me to see how to help myself. And it's ultimately, it sounds like everybody here is saying, yeah, it's my responsibility for my happiness, as I was given the tools. But what I do with that as I go out into the world is what makes me happy. And that's my way of being. So what do you see are barriers to happiness that come up for people in their lives? What keeps us from accessing that? I think you said that peace, that hope, and that contentment. What keeps us from getting at least to that place where we don't have to be, as you referenced, Joy, throwing flowers but just to get to that place of peace so that we can breathe. What's in the way? What do you think?
I can actually start by saying that I think what happens is when it comes to just happiness in general, a lot of people don't live in the present. They kind of think about, I'll be happy when this happens, or I'll be happy when I finally reach this destination. And they're always thinking about kind of the future of what happiness looks like, rather than really just being in the moment and looking around you and being like, I can decide to be happy if I want with the things that I currently have in my life. Like I said, just looking around. I mean, I know people who say things like, I wish I had a bigger home, a bigger house living in, more square feet, or I wish I one day had a luxury car. I'm sick of driving this Honda that I have. Well, they don't realize that being happy with the things you have, there's people who don't have cars, period. There's people who can't even have a house right now, or it's tough in certain ways. Like, I feel like that's kind of a barrier that stands in people's ways. They're always trying to find the next thing, or they're comparing themselves to others. We're in a world where social media is running rampant, and you got all these social media platforms, and we see different things that people are posting, and maybe things that are making them happy. And then we get in a state of mind and we say, well, that person's happy and I'm not there yet in my life. So I feel like I'm not happy right now because I'm trying to be where that person is. Where we're all in different places in our lives for a reason. We all have the things in our life for a reason. We should take it in and be happy with what we currently have, and then continue to live that happiness when more good things come our way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that, Jamie. And as a relationship coach, what I see so often with women is, well, when I find the right person, when I find my person, I will be happy. And the best definition I've ever heard was, happiness is not getting what you want, it's wanting what you have. And then I remind them that you have to be happy inside yourself, all on your own. And then you can find your person. and they can add to your happiness, but no other person can ever be your happiness. And I'm sorry, women, I hate to say this, but not your child, not your husband, not your best friend. They cannot be your happiness. You have to be happy in here, living from the inside out, in your own skin, happy in your own skin. Who you are and how it works for you is what matters. And then you can share your happiness with others. But if you don't have it by yourself first, it's kind of impossible to share it with somebody else. And it just gets crappier.
Mm.
Yeah.
It really is a shift in perception, and you know, it's not something that you wake up on Monday and it's there, or maybe it is, it just happens, but it's a way to remind yourself as things are happening around you. Like you mentioned, that something happened, that it's a lesson, or you know, this happened. It's not that everything is happening as a lesson, or everything is happening and, you know, it's showing you some way it's synchronous to something. It's just that things are going on around you. You're never going to stop the environment. You're here for as long as you're here, which you don't know. Everything's a mystery, like what, why, when, how, I don't know. So everything presents itself as drama. And you have to say to yourself, do I take on the drama and continue it so that the why becomes so paramount that I can't even think past anything but why? And, you know, it becomes now an emergency. And you're allowing yourself to take the perception of mystery and the unknown and chaos. You're allowing yourself to make a judgment on that and use that judgment to literally like snowball down the hill and become bigger and worse. And or do you say to yourself, stop, wait a minute, I don't know. I didn't know. I won't know. I'm learning. Slow down. And that's when you all of a sudden the perception shifts, because you're admitting, I don't know. I'm going to try. I'm going to do the best I can, but I'm not sure. And we'll see what happens. And it's going to be fun doing this. And I'm going to have to do it again. Sort of like you take, as I said, take that perception and you say, this work is not, it's not bad work. It's great work. It really is the only thing that's mine, that I own. Totally. And once you start to embrace that, you realize, okay, so if I totally own, what is it that I totally own? And the word is happiness. I mean, unless you want to say I totally own sadness. Yeah.
Joy, you just said a trigger word for me. You said work. So I can choose to get triggered, or I can choose to see that as a neutral event and say, play. It's my choice to play. But like you were saying, you know, and I've heard a Buddhist monk say this, when you're tempted to react in an unresourceful way, like with anger or any of those things, you can say, I don't accept that gift. I'm not accepting that. And Lydia, when you were asking earlier about the things that, the barriers that keep us from happiness, some of the things that came up were kind of like Jamie was explaining. For me, a lot of the times it's lack, thinking that I lack something, I lack love, I lack, you know, even physical things, money. When I compare myself to others and see myself in lack. And when I was in my journey of healing, of coming out to living a more joy-filled life, I put myself in what I call the happiness bubble. So I kept, I did not watch the news. Anybody would say anything negative. I'm like, oop, shut that off. Oh, turn that off. And you can't live 100% that way all the time. So thank God that now I'm able to approach things in a better way. And some of the other things that came up for me, especially, it was believing lies. I was believing these lies about myself, these lies that the world was scary, that I was not safe, that I was not enough, that I was not wanted. And it just, instead of me exercising my happy muscle, I exercised the unresourceful muscle. And that's when I ended up in the pit of despair and darkness. And also a lot of it is identity and not being able to be yourself.
Yeah. We're part of something so big and so beautiful. And to think that we are, oh, not that big. We are so small compared to that big, beautiful thing. That can take us away, but we're part of that big, beautiful thing. We are totally part of this big, beautiful universe, this amazing planet, this society of people who we can think, oh, I can't have peace because there's not peace around me. There's not, or we can realize that, oh, I am peace, and look at all of the peaceful people, and let's reach out and find them. So there's a thing that we all have, and that's being part of this society, being, and some people will say, oh, I'm not good enough in this society, or I need to say who I am, and there's a barrier to that, or there's a lot of this, us being in this society, right? So I want to ask you, are there any, because I think there's a part of us that needs to be in with people, that we need to connect to the people. We need to connect, that when we're by ourselves, really by ourselves, we're good in ourselves, but when we're by ourselves and we can't really connect to people, and this isn't about, being an introvert or an extrovert, but just connect to other souls, that we also have a lack, that we are by ourselves, and that there's a barrier there. It comes down to us needing other people, needing to see other people and help them, needing to see that we are enough with those other people, needing that example, there are no mistakes. So what do you think about connection to people, connection to the source that is us and others of us? How does that work in our happiness? Do you have any examples of ever having a lack of connection to people, or seeing other people have had a lack of connection, and how that plays into happiness or connections of communities? How does that play?
We're social animals. So, we want to interact with others. That's not necessarily a source of happiness. It's what we bring to that table, but that's what's, nature nurture. That's what's nurturing us, right? As we grow up, the family is nurturing us. And in many cases, families, you may look at your family and say, that's not a good, happy place. You may say that, or you may say it's the most wonderful place in the world. It really depends on that which you grew up. And the point is that, once again, and I think we've said it, happiness is inside. We may not have grown up in a happy environment, and we may have not been taught to be happy. We may you know, we may have no concept of happiness, and we need to find it. So I'd say that society is not necessarily equal to happiness, that we might not necessarily find our happiness in society. It's an expression of our happiness, perhaps. I think it's an internal engine in ourselves. You know, you put coal in the happiness engine. Yeah, put virtual coal, and we don't want to have a carbon footprint. We put virtual coal in the oven, and we get happy, and we bring that out. And yes, we're social animals. You know, I think more happiness will lift society.
Yeah, I
I-
think that when we're in like, you know, places of being where there's a lot of people around or there's groups of people congregating and stuff like that, I feel like sometimes what social media kind of what we see out there is that people try so hard to have this acceptance, right? To be accepted. And we sometimes we want to try hard to blend in with a group and be cool and everybody having that conversation when we need to realize that like we're not, you know, we should still be the same way we are, even when we're by ourselves in that happiness. We don't need to be a certain way when we're around certain people or try to do things to get accepted by those other people. You know, if you can be yourself and bring that happiness and, you know, you can carry on that same personality you have, then, you know, others will hopefully vibe with you. And if they don't, then you know what, that's okay too, right? You still need to be into your own being and not try to be a different person when you're around others versus what you might be outside of a different environment. So I feel like that's the kind of what we're kind of seeing right now is like Joy said, you know, this you know, we're social beings and whatnot. We want to be certain ways, but it's okay to just be who we still are around other people. And then people should accept us for who we are, not because we're trying to change to be accepted the way we feel like others want to see us.
So
You know,
important.
I love that, Jamie. And you know, it just made me think of that ripple effect that, you know, everything we do ripples. And what I found in life is, you know, we are herd animals. We need other people. That is just who we are. You know, Joy is absolutely correct in that. The problem with being around other people is they do one of two things. They either bring out the best in us or they bring out the beast in us. And it's all about learning how to choose who you're going to have in your life and who you're going to allow in to affect you in that way. Having been divorced twice, I found out really well what it happens when you allow someone to bring out the beast in you and allow them to stay in your life. It gets horrible. It gets miserable. You beat yourself up. You're not worth anything. Everything goes away. But when you get cognizant of who you are and what you want in your life, and you understand that concept of how we each affect each other because we're all connected. You can't live in a house with someone. You can't hang out with someone 24 hours a day and not have them affect you inside. So you have to be very, very careful how you allow those people into your heart and your life. And you really have to start with, you know, teaching yourself how to find the right people and draw them into your life and how to say, this isn't the right person. I don't like the way I am with them. So doesn't mean, you know, like if it's your family, there's a little small problem there. Doesn't mean you get rid of them unless you can, but it means you set boundaries that protect you from the drama and the trauma that come with them. And you bring in the people into your life that do bring out the best in you, and you appreciate them and acknowledge them for that fact and know why they're there in your life. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything they do and love everything they do, but know they do help you become the better person that you want to be.
I'm not a big animal person, but I've heard that when a predator wants to get their prey, they get them isolated. And with depression and suicide, that's one of the steps, you know, and one of the dangers to get into that extreme isolation. And for me, I didn't think that I needed people. You know, I had school, I had, you know, my work, I had other things. But once I got into communities of people that were encouraging, collaborative, they supported me. It was like, wow, I've been missing this all my life. And these are kingdom entrepreneurs that cheer each other on and want to hear, you know, your wins. And every week when I go into one of these groups and I share my wins and I share my knowledge and I bring value to those people and they get something out of it, that just like brings me so much joy. So community can be very, very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredibly important, and we can choose, but we can choose more when we actually allow ourselves to be in the community, to be in the society, when that society is around us. You know, I may have said this to some of you before, but there's a person who who's done a study, and I can't think of his name at the moment, but on happiness and the amount of pings that word has gotten throughout history. And that includes not just online history, but going back to all the literature that we still have in our records. And happiness has come up the most, absolutely the most, as a search word since the industrial era. So, and more really right now. So there's this huge volume of years and years, and then all of a sudden everybody's saying, how do I get happy? Here, do this to be happy, do that to be happy, as opposed to us just having that in us. It all is about when we started to get separate from one another because of industrialization, because of working for a paycheck, for working for a product. And people say, hey, what's going on with these third world countries? And, you know, of course, we actually talked about that last week, that, you know, some of those third world countries are misnamed, like Singapore is not struggling at all. but in a place where, oh, they don't have any running water, they all have to go to the well and carry their water every day. Well, why are these people so happy? Because they see one another, and they don't just see the one person they're stuffed with, they see the whole village, and they get to check in with each other with their bare feet on the ground, connected to the earth and connecting to one another. And what do? We pay a bill to the water company and we get our water from a spigot, and we don't see each other every time we need water. We find ways to see one another, to check in on one another. And if we're in that place where we're not good with ourselves, we say, how can I be enough to be out there and be with those people? Because we have that lack in us. And that lack is connecting to one another. How can I be connected to this beautiful place that I was born to? We need connection.
We tend to, like, I think we overanalyze happiness. Like you were mentioning, you know, you go back in history, way back in history. So let's go past the technological revolution, way back to the caveman. Do you think the caveman was sitting around the cave and looking at each other and going, me not happy? you not happy? No, they had so much to do. You know, they were sewing, they were, you know, whatever they were doing, they were busy. If they needed to eat and needed water, two things, food, water, cave, three things. They needed to get themselves busy. So they needed a fire. They all had their little chores, whether we call it work or play. Let's not talk about words, but they were busy doing stuff. And their happiness was almost taken, not almost, their happiness was taken for granted. Taken for granted. They didn't live a long life. They didn't have books. It was really very simple. Were they wildly happy? No, I'm sure stuff happens. I mean, after all, but it was an internal. I keep on talking about the engine. It was an internal engine that carried them, and they didn't have a conception necessarily for happiness. So, is this concept of happiness something that has been created over time?
Because of the lack of it.
Mhm. You know, Joy,
I don't know.
you just said a mouthful, and it just dawned on me and thinking about this, you know, what changed? Our expectations changed. Our expectations changed that everything can be hot, fast, and cheap, that we can turn on a spigot and the water will come out. I can write a check and I can buy anything I want. I can pick up the phone and have somebody on the other end. And the problem is when our expectations are here and the reality is here, we become dissatisfied. When we attach ourselves to that expectation of fast, hot, and cheap, of availability, of always being able to. And when you can't get what you need from someone else or some encounter or whatever, boom, everything's shattered and we're unhappy.
Mm.
And when we detach from our expectations and say, hey, what's going to happen is going to happen. I'm going to go to this party and maybe I'm going to meet people I'm going to enjoy, or maybe I'm just going to eat some good food and drink some good stuff and feel good and listen to good music. That's enough. And I think one of the things my husband and I do when things are, you know, not exactly how we wanted them to be and our expectations haven't been met, we remind each other how blessed we are. And you know, it may be me, it may be him, but in anyone on this call, anyone listening, guys, we're blessed. We are blessed. We have food, we have water, we have air, maybe not all clean, but we have them. We have roofs, we have clothing, we have transportation. You know, what more do we truly need? Nothing. We are blessed. Each one of us in our own way in the lives we live. And when we start living in that feeling of being blessed, you know, it changes everything. Even when our expectations are horribly missed, it doesn't matter because we have that foundation that says this is the pie in the sky dream, shoot high, see what happens, but know that you'll be satisfied and blessed with whatever comes.
Yeah, I take a step further. I always say I'm blessed to just be able to every day in the morning, wake up, open my eyes, put 2 feet on the ground and be able to stretch and be ready to go for the day. Like, I mean, that's a blessing in itself, right? I mean, we're here, we're on the right side of the earth. There's a lot to be thankful for. And if more people, realize that, once again, instead of just thinking about what they might need to be blessed, or the things they don't have right now, like you said, we have all these things that we have in our life right now that make us blessed. We need to live in that moment, and realize that every day that when we're here with the sense of being, that's a blessing within itself.
Gratitude, that gratitude feeling, I think that lifts us quite a bit when we say, I'm grateful for. If you constantly think about things that you're grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. When we don't notice those blessings, when we aren't grateful, we have it separates us, because it's like saying that we showed up here incomplete, and we didn't show up here incomplete. We have everything we need. Otherwise, for goodness sake, we wouldn't be here. We have everything we need. And it is all a blessing. I look at I categorize or I journal awe, and because every day there's not just something I'm grateful for, and not just something I'm happy about, but also something that I just say, wow, that's amazing. That's beautiful. Or that's incredible. And every day there's something out there. Yeah.
We're in awe.
Yeah. So,
Well, one thing, and I'm going to throw this in, and I want Violet to jump in on this, but one of the things that changed everything for me was, reading that scripture that, gather what you need for today and trust that I will provide for tomorrow. And I think that what we've lost since the Industrial Revolution is trust. Trust in the future, trust in each other, trust that we'll have what we need, trust that we'll be okay, trust that God is watching over us. And it's that saying, and I used it the other day on another conversation with you, Lydia, is my favorite saying, I know I'm somebody, I know I'm special, because God don't make no junk. And I just wonder how much of this unhappiness that we are experiencing is because we have disconnected from our faith and from that higher power that is what created it all and holds us every moment of our lives, however you define it. I know how I define it as a Christian, but it's that without God, how do people make it through a day, much less be happy?
That covenant, I know you were asking for Violet, but that covenant, that faith, that is certainly an instrument of happiness. And it's not that I'm saying people who don't believe, because I think that people who don't believe do believe. They're just a little confused about what they believe in, because you don't necessarily need to believe in a Bible or particularly some religious figure. You're believing in something. And once you stop believing in something, that's when you become unhappy, because you're believing in nothing.
Exactly.
So I know that happiness is available, and maybe it's a superficial happiness to people that don't believe in God. But for those of us that are believers in God, sometimes we're misled because people, well-meaning people, like for example, some of my friends have said, God wants you holy, not happy. And things like that have been just, oh, it sounds great, so let's just perpetuate this and make this as Bible. But it's so interesting because when I grew up, I would win awards because I memorized Bible verses, Bible chapters, and all this. But it wasn't until I went on this healing journey that I started seeing all the verses that said, the joy of the Lord is my strength. In his presence is fullness of joy. What's the kingdom of God? It's righteousness, peace, and joy. What is the fruit of the Spirit? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness. The Holy Spirit is already in us. And because the Spirit of God is in us, we have joy already inside us. And not only happiness or joy, but a more powerful, deep word is bliss. And bliss, that deep, deep, like ecstasy, almost joy, is in the Bible. And it says that God rejoices over us with singing. That's how he feels about us. So yes, I don't remember, sorry, I apologize, whoever said it about our perception of God. If we don't see him as a good God that has our best intentions, that is not the bringer, because in John 10:10 it says, the enemy came to kill, steal, and destroy. But God came to give us abundant life. And sometimes we get it wrong. We're like, well, this bad thing happened so that I can learn something. Or this sickness happened because, this and this and this. yes, great stuff can come out of it because of Romans 8:28. God turns everything around for good. But it doesn't mean that he was the source of that painful event or unresourceful thing.
Yeah, that perception, we have the ability to see the good. If we don't allow ourselves to, what's the point? Why are we here? What's the point to come here and struggle?
What is consciousness?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't have the answer to that. I wish I did.
Yeah, yeah. So as we sort of go forward and go into the rest of our days, and everybody else watching the channel goes into the rest of their day, what is the happiness that they're going to take forth with them? If you were to tell them, hey, you got this and this is why, what are they going to bring forth in a world of blame and war and economies failing? What are they going to bring forth with them to make them have faith in their own ability to have happiness? Kind of a big question, but it's also kind of a simple question. I think everybody here.
You know, it boils down to one simple basic truth. There is only one person that we are truly responsible for, only one person that we are responsible to, and only one person that if things aren't working out well, that we can change. And when you look in that mirror and you don't like the person you see, change it. Change it. Figure out what it is you don't like. Figure out what it is you're ashamed of. Figure out what it is that's holding you back. Figure out how your relationship with God is whole. And when you get those two relationships right, everything else works, because now you're part of the solution, not the problem.
And choose every moment. Okay, so something's going wrong and you're about to get angry and blow your top, or you're going to go into a deep depression. I mean, I'm not making light of depression. If you're having depression, perhaps you need to talk to a professional. But when you are capable, realize that in the next moment, you can switch it and make it positive, lighten it up, bring it forward, make a step in the right direction or make a step in a positive direction every moment, literally every moment. So not tomorrow, not the next day, right now.
Yeah, I like what you just said there, Joy. It's like, what can you do in the present? What can you do right now? I think when it comes to happiness, what we can bring forward, I mean, once again, there's so much outside noise happening with things. Just go out there, smile, compliment somebody, open a door for somebody. You make people's day. I mean, when I was, working for banks in different places, and I was seeing people all the time, it was something as simple as saying, "Oh, I like your shirt," or "Hey, it's a nice watch you have, like pretty, it's nice," or just complimenting little things just makes somebody smile. It catches somebody off guard, right? Like, "Oh, that's really nice of you," right? And then that person carries that smile. If you can afford to do something, you're getting your coffee in the morning. If you can do something nice and pay it forward and get the coffee for the person behind you, they spread. They might pay for somebody else with this. It's just little things. You don't have to, like I said, there's so much negativity and so much commotion going out in the world and things like that. It's just getting out there and just doing nice things for other, and it could just be something, like I said, it's something as just simple as smiling, or you see that guy this holiday season that's outside ringing the bell for the Salvation Army, and he's dancing and having a good time and singing songs, and you just say, have a happy holiday, right? And maybe you donate a quarter, a dollar, something like that. I mean, these little things just add up and they bring people's smiles to their faces, and that's the little things that we can do that lead to bigger happiness down the line.
So something just occurred to me. Jamie said connection. And I think that when we do connect, so we're social animals. When we do connect, we're instantly happy. We don't think about it. It's not like, oh, I connected. Oh, now I'm so happy. It's just something that happens. So you have that conversation with somebody, you connect with them, you feel that there's something there. You are happy in that moment and you keep connecting. If you disconnect, now you have to find happiness within yourself, which is possible, but I'm merely saying that caveman in the cave with, with all the other cave people, they were totally connected and they were very happy. In the sense that they didn't think about happiness. It was, oh, you get meat for me. You get, you got water. Oh, this is good. The end. Everybody's working for everybody else. Everybody's there for each other without having to think about it. The connection instantly does it.
And I don't know when this is going to air, but I know that during the holidays, a lot of people get into depression for so many reasons. I can't list all the reasons, but for me, it was especially important to practice what made me happy. And so, like Joy was saying, don't wait, do it now. But how do I do it now? We'll find out. What are some of the things that bring you joy? Like walking out in nature, getting some sun. And also what I encourage people to do is to start a joy alarm. Like every day, oh, what did I do today that brought me joy? Nothing? Well, let me do something now. And when I was being interviewed once, this lady had an awesome idea. She said, why don't you write one thing that brings you joy on a popsicle stick, an unused, make sure it's new. We don't want to get sick here, right? And put it in a jar. And then if you're really like in a funk and you can't think of anything, just pick that popsicle stick up and like, oh, okay, I can try this. But something really cool that happened to me. So I know that joy can transform people because that has been my story. But when I was my husband and I were having one of our wonderful walks, but unfortunately we had intense fellowship, what I call it. Okay, let's get real. It was an argument and I was very upset. And get away from me, the needles come out. But then I saw this gorgeous plant and my state switched like that. And right now, as I was talking, one of the questions that Lydia was asking, I got into my head. And Tony Robbins says, when you get into your heart is when you're truly yourself. But I was getting into my head, trying to think, what am I supposed to say? What is the right thing to say here? What can I contribute? But then I saw Joy's little puppy over there. Immediate joy. So it can be really, really simple. We just have to also allow ourselves, give ourselves permission. It's okay to be happy.
And it's also okay not to be okay, right? I mean, it's okay not to be okay, and ask people if you need help with something and stuff like that. So a lot of different things, right? So yeah, no, great. This is great. I mean, I love it. You guys have shared all great things about happiness, and man, it's been an awesome conversation.
Happiness would not be the value of happiness if we didn't have ups and downs, and that's okay. That's because we've got this. We've got each other, and we've got ourselves. and we are enough. So choose joy. Yeah, choose happiness. Well, I appreciate you each and all, and can't wait until the next time that we're together. Thank you so much for being with me around this round table and talking about what happiness is. Thanks. Thank you so much for being here. As you enter into the American holidays, the European holidays, the holidays of all sorts that happen at this time of year, please remember that your happiness is yours and it's yours to hold. I wish you a beautiful holiday. And I also wish that if you like this particular topic, please hit like and gently push the subscribe button, because you know what? We need more people to be on this channel and find their joy. Appreciate you. I'll see you next week. Ciao.